What's your bias? Who's your bias?
My bias, my bias?
Yeah, the person that you relate to or you like the most if you had to pick one.
Okay. I think for me, definitely Suga.
Suga?
Yeah.
I knew that. I tell everybody that. Do you have a second?
Let me think about that for a second.
In like fandom, it's called your bias record.
It's your backup plan.
Yeah, it's your backup plan.
Honestly, I would probably pick the person opposite of him, like J-Hope.
Yeah, you do love J-Hope.
Yep.
Okay, so what is it about Suga that makes him your favorite? And then we're going to talk about why J-Hope, why you feel like J-Hope would be second.
Okay. I mean, you and I have talked about Suga before. Just, I think, like, once you kind of get to know him and how, like, multifaceted he is and stuff, I think it's just a lot of respect for me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's super talented in so many different areas that people don't realize, like, everything he can do. And he doesn't just do it, like, he does it, like, at an elite level.
Right. He excels at everything.
Right. It's not like, I mean, you know, there's people that can play guitar and play piano, but like, they're not going to get on stage for 60,000 people and bring the house down. You know? So it's just the combination of talent. And I think he's very low key, which I like about him.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely more my style.
Right. Well, he's sort of more like me, which I think is why you like him.
Probably. I mean, yeah, that could be. I mean, but I think it's that, and just, you know, I mean, you know, obviously he had a struggle to get where he's at, and I also really, one of the things I respect, I think the most about him is the fact that he forced himself to like be a decent dancer, and like I don't think he really had any natural ability to do that. I mean, he has rhythm, obviously, musical rhythm, but I mean, dancing and looking good doing it's like, you know, that's a whole different thing. And, and obviously that probably wasn't something he was really like fired up about. I'm assuming, but like he forced himself to be at least good enough to be in the back row.
Yeah, he does get in the front sometimes. And he did the challenge. Like he did that challenge with, and he did really good. Right. Okay, and then J-Hope. What is your? You've kind of got a crush on J-Hope. But don't we all? I mean,
well, I don't know. I think anytime you see somebody who's like living life in a way that's sort of opposite to how you are kind of wired, it makes you marvel. You know, you're like, with him, like, you know, he comes into a room and he's just like Captain Bubbly. You know, it's just like la da da da, and he just gets everybody laughing and having a good time. And I admire that quality in people. I'm not that guy.
Right.
I'm the opposite of that guy. You know, but that's just who I am. That's how I'm wired. I'm much more behind the scenes and kind of, you know, low key, right? I don't want to be, you know, it's hard for me to even do this stuff because like I don't like to be. Right. I mean, I have a Facebook account, but like if you go look at it, like the last time I posted was like a year ago. Right. You know, so.
Well, the world would be very shocked to know that you were once a children's pastor. And you used to dance around and sing.
Yeah, I did.
And tell stories and puppet shows and the whole 9 yards.
I did. Yeah.
I mean, you were more J-Hope at some times than, I mean, you can turn it on.
I can.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand. Yeah, I mean, I can. I mean, I understand the performance of it, but like that's just who he is.
Right.
Yeah,
we were watching something and he laughed and you were like, even you said, you could be in a room full of people, he would laugh and you would immediately know who he is. Like you would know the laugh. Yeah,
he just, you know, he's like I said, he's the opposite of me. He has a very optimistic view of everything, and I'm a very pessimistic person by nature. So it's just, I think I'm attracted to that.
Yeah.
That opposite, I guess, probably.
For me, it was actually, I mean, V is what kind of got me into it. We'll talk about that in a minute, but J-Hope was the one that really got me into BTS because I watched the carpool karaoke. and he was, sitting right in the middle in that, and he was just so bright and so happy. I was like, what? Who is this person? And then you see him dance, and you kind of can't help but love him. But yeah, you're right. I mean, they're very opposite. Both very talented, obviously. So yeah, those are really good choices. Mm-hmm. That's good. BTS finds you when you need them, like right when you're ready for them. And so for me, it was, mom was here. Mom was living here, or it was shortly after her cancer diagnosis.
Right.
So everything was just sort of, bleak and depressing and difficult. And then for me, I was a writer for the last, 10, 12 years plus years of my life, and that kind of was gone. And so I didn't really have anything that I was like, this is what I'm going to spend my time on. I didn't have anything to occupy my mind. I didn't have anything, and I didn't have, writing had been kind of my dream and my goal for so long that once it was gone, I didn't really have that. I didn't have anything really anymore. And then mom's situation was not good. And anyway, so there was something about these 7 guys and watching them, number one, like chase their goal and actually accomplish it and like blow it out of the water. That was encouraging. Even though I wasn't, I could kind of live vicariously through them and, their struggles and overcoming in that sort of David and Goliath moment. And it's moment after moment, actually. But also, I love to laugh, obviously, at all the Run episodes and that kind of stuff. But I think one of the things that most appealed to me was the friendships. I didn't grow up with that. Moving around so much, I didn't have that. And so there was something about watching people connect and actually enjoy each other and actually trust each other. And it just made me feel good. It's phase. But for me, it was a lot more in depth than just, well, these guys are cute.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
And so that's kind of where I started. And so I really got into it, last October, more so December, January timeframe, and then I took off from there.
Right.
So now you can tell your part, your point of view from watching it.
Well, I mean,
because you didn't have any of that insight.
Well, I mean, I think you told me the question that your army buddies had asked were.
Make sure you speak up.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I think you'd mentioned that your army buddy had asked, one of the big questions they had asked is like, how did I cross over, so to speak, or how did I make the determination that they were cool or okay to be following, or what brought me on board or whatever. It's kind of obviously it's a complicated question with a complicated answer, but I'll try to make it the short version if I can. So. When she first got into BTS, first thing about my wife is that she really, she's 100, she's either 100,000 miles an hour or 0. So there's not really an in between. So like when she hooked onto it, like it became like really a big focal point of her life. She was very much into it and watching it a lot and all that kind of stuff. And so I had no idea what was happening, but I knew.
You thought I'd lost my mind.
Well, I mean, I love my wife. She's the greatest person I know, but she does have where she goes through phases of things. She went through the Twilight phase.
I'm still a Robert Pattinson phase, so.
Yeah, Robert Pattinson Twilight phase. That was like hardcore. That was my first test, as a husband. To try to figure out how to maneuver those kind of things, because it's not, when you're not used to that, it's tough to kind of figure it out, but. And then it happened with BTS, and I just, I kind of assumed it was the same. But I think, she was really into it, and it was just kind of, really became a big part of her life. And I started getting resentful, and butthurt.
Yeah. Yeah. Jealous,
yeah, whatever.
Sure.
Whatever you want to call it. I mean,
not really jealous of, it was just my time. You were jealous of the
right, not
that I wasn't getting.
Right, it wasn't anything weird. It was
No.
just that they were more important. That sort of thing.
They weren't. He just felt that way.
So anyway, I've been going through some stuff over the last few years, and I'm really trying to work on myself. And part of that is like one of the things I'm trying to do is like when I'm disturbed. Well, a person taught me this thing. It said, whenever people, places, or things disturb you, and this is a spiritual axiom. Whenever people, places, or things disturb you, you are the one that's disturbed.
Okay.
And so what that means is essentially look in the mirror. Find out why you're doing what you're doing, or why are you feeling this way. And so I decided I was going to be an adult and have a conversation with my wife, and I was going to lay all my points out.
Because you were so correct.
I was going to lay all my points out, which were all really solid points, well thought out, and convince her that she needs to lay off the BTS and give her husband some more attention. So we had that. So we actually did have that and this is all. I hate to say this. This is part of me being an adult for the first time in a long time, maybe ever. Actually addressing my concerns and my grievances and that sort of thing in a healthy, positive way.
Right.
So, and I did that and went to her and had this conversation. And as we had the conversation, I began to realize that most of my premises were based on like false assumptions, and false. The foundation of my argument was not very good. And so the more we talked through it and everything, I realized, which is my job now, to realize that, the things that were going on were my problems, that they were my insecurities or whatever. It had nothing to do with her. Mm-hmm. And what she was doing was making her happy, and certainly wasn't unhealthy, and it wasn't costing a bunch of money.
At the time.
At least not yet, until the concert comes or whatever. But anyway, so we just talked through it, and I realized I was wrong and she was right. And so I just, at that point, I just kind of made the decision, because I had been needling her for a long time.
You would just give me a hard time.
Well, it was
like passive aggressive.
Well, it was like, haha, I'm joking, but I really wasn't. Mm-hmm. And she knew I wasn't, and I knew I wasn't, but like I tried to act like I was. Mm-hmm. And so it just made a lot of tension, a lot of problems. So I finally decided to cut that out. I wouldn't do that anymore as step one, to mend it. And then step two is just, just let her be herself and do her thing. And if I want to spend time with her and she's doing that, then I get to, that's part of it. And so I started kind of hanging out with her and watching some of it, and then the rest is history. I mean, I really like them. So
so I guess one of the things that we talked about when you came to me and we hashed it all out, which I've talked about on TikTok before, but I think a lot of people don't necessarily discuss it. One of my points to you was, because you were like, you're spending so much time and da 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 da. My point to you was, okay, well, what if that same time that I'm spending was I was watching, I was listening to sports radio on the way to work. I'm listening to sports podcasts all day. I'm reading the newspaper, the sports, following football. I'm doing my fantasy football lineup on weekends at different things. I'm watching football games constantly. Would you feel the same way? And you were like, no. So it was this weird,
right.
It was like some things are acceptable.
Well, just
not to you, but I mean to the world.
Right. It was just that revelation of that. I mean, I guess it's sexism in a way, I guess.
Yeah. I think so. I think that's what a lot of people feel like looking at the notes and the comments is it.
Yeah, I mean,
men are allowed to enjoy,
right.
like men are allowed to have their sports haven and their man cave with all their sports crap everywhere and do all their football and all that stuff, and we're just supposed to be like, that's totally normal, but it's not totally normal for a woman to want to have her own things that she enjoys.
I agree.
Yeah,
and that's the conclusion I came to. I think, after we talked.
You're making noise. Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, I mean, just that it was kind of a foolish argument, really, and that was being a child, essentially, about it, and I needed to grow up and move on, and it was really, I mean, it ended up being good. Like, I think it almost got weird for a while, because I was like, whoa, this isn't going like I expected at all, and she's like, well, what did you expect? I mean, she was kind of,
I did bow up.
She was bowing up on me. I'm like, oh, whoa, hold on a second. I just wasn't sure. Like, I mean, I kind of had, I mean, obviously, I expected the outcome to be the opposite of what it was, but I didn't really see the point.
He walked into the room with a very specific script that he thought that we would follow, sort of.
Maybe.
This is how this conversation is going to go. I am going to state my case. She is going to realize how wrong she is, and this will all change immediately.
I don't think it was so much that you would realize how wrong you were. I think it was more about like you would realize that you weren't giving me enough attention or whatever. And I think the bottom line is that had nothing to do with you and more to do with me.
Right.
You know, a lot of guys are probably going to hate me for this whole thing, I'm sure, as we go through this, because I know that a lot of women, you know, their men are like I was. So hopefully the guys will actually pay attention, and maybe, because me it's about self-examination, like, you know, why does it make you feel that way?
Right.
Is it really what she's doing, or is it something inside of you that needs to be addressed, you know?
Right. Well, because I think the only thing we figured out was like, you wanted me in the room with you, even though, you know, you're like, we need to be watching stuff together. We were watching, like, you know, have a TV show on, and he'd be on his phone playing video games. And I'm like, well, if we're not, I mean, what does it matter what I'm watching if we're not, you know, I mean, so again, it was like this weird thing. It's like, I can devote all my attention, not all of his attention, but to video games and stuff like that. But when you have something else that you're focusing on and it's not everything. You didn't feel that way when I was totally obsessed with writing, I don't think. I think it was this particular, I don't know, maybe you did, but it was this particular interest that made you
Yeah, I don't know what
more
makes
nervous.
I don't know what makes it more threatening. I don't know if it's, you know, because it's a bunch of good-looking guys, if that has some kind of primal. I don't know.
Right.
I mean, a lot of the stuff is primal stuff. It's, you know, I'm a man, and you know, my woman's going to be next to me, and, and I'm doing this, and she's going to be okay with it.
Not going to be looking at other men.
Right. I mean, it's kind of some of it's that, which I get that to an extent, but like that's not really okay for that to be a reason for behavior or decision making. I mean, everybody has little twinges of jealousy, but you just need to get over it, you know, and grow up.
Yeah. Was there a moment when, okay, so we get past all the stuff, you wanted to hang out with me, and so you just kind of started spending time in the room with me when I was watching stuff, and you weren't really paying much attention, but you were,
right.
You know, you could hear it.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a particular moment or thing that your curiosity got piqued a little, and you were like, okay, well, I mean, was it the Suga documentary? Because I felt like that was like your first, but maybe not.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I think so. I mean, that was probably the sort of the genesis of it all. You know, just of some kind of interest, I guess. But I mean, I'll be honest. Like, to me, it was just like, you know, I'm hanging out with my wife, and that's what she's doing, and I'm like on my phone jacking around or whatever. And I think through osmosis, I mean, it's a
lot.
It's on all the time. It's either concerts, or it's, you know, Sashwata, or it's
in the soup,
in the soup, or it's, you know, people's reaction videos to watching their videos, and that's on all the time and stuff. So you just kind of, I think by osmosis, you start kind of just picking up on who they are and what they're about, but you know, the music's really good too. I mean,
were you surprised by that? Were you surprised? I mean, because a lot more lately, you talk a lot more about their music and how you like it. Were you surprised that you liked it? Did you think it would be like like when you hear K-pop, do you like what was your...
I don't think I knew what. I mean, I think the only thing I knew of K-pop was like, you know, Gangnam stuff.
Psy, yeah.
Yeah, like whatever.
And then Gangnam Style.
Yeah, that. Yeah. I mean, like sort of that is almost sort of cartoonish.
Catchy, like the cat. Is it, what's the word? Catchy. I don't know.
You know, almost more cartoonish in a way to me. But I mean, not to say it's bad because it's very catchy, but
right.
But you know, almost its own genre. It's like its own thing. But I don't know. I think it's just like I started like, you know, I'd be like humming tunes. I'd be like, oh, you know, but you know, it's like then you start really paying attention. Like I mean, they're super talented. Like their rhythms, their writing. I mean, all of it. Most of their stuff that I've listened to is really, really good. And it's, you know, it's very, you know, they do a lot of, I think they, you know, they vary quite a bit too. I mean, especially now that you have the breakout of all the guys solo, it makes it even better. But I don't know. I find it to be really good music. I think it's well done, and they're talented, obviously, and they're all great vocalists, and they harmonize great together and all that. So
yeah,
it's good stuff.
Yeah, I did a TikTok video one time. You were upstairs feeding the dogs, and I was sitting in bed, and I was like, because you had started walking around the house singing Butter, but you sing Smooth Like Bubba, because you were singing it when you were dealing with the dogs. So I was like, I got him at least a little bit, because he's walking around singing Smooth Like Bubba, you know.
I do
Yeah,
that.
you do that still.
Smooth Like Bandit too.
Yeah, Smooth Like Bandit. Yeah, that's funny. Okay, and now you do walk around singing Seven a lot.
I do like that song a lot.
You love that song. Would you have been interested in them and their music if not for me?
Probably not. Only just because I probably would have never been exposed to it.
Yeah, you never would have found them. I mean, the only thing I remember ever hearing about BTS was, I think one day at an OU football game, like during every football game, you get to vote on what song they're going to play in the third quarter. And it goes like on the big screen, and you have to text your answer. And I think Butter was one of the options.
Right.
They're like,
I think I
BTS,
remember
Butter.
that.
Yeah, we were like, what song is that?
What the hell? We're like, Butter?
What BTS?
Stupid name is
Yeah,
that?
what's Butter? And I think it won, probably, even in Oklahoma. Okay. I don't think you would have been able to be exposed to them. Probably.
I mean, I'm pretty off grid, man. Like I'm not.
You don't really listen to music.
I listen to
Sports radio.
I listen to local stations.
Yeah.
Like, I'm more of a classic rock guy, like old school rock.
Well, okay, that's one of these questions. Okay, hold on. What kind of music do you like, and do you find any similar vibes?
Well, I mean, I think my meat and potatoes is old school classic rock. I mean, that's my. I grew up in the 70s, 80s.
Right.
When all the best rock and roll was made, by the way.
Yep.
So I'm trying to think. Like, I do find. I mean, I have a pretty wide palette when it comes to music. I actually listen to and like a lot of things that people probably think I wouldn't. But sometimes I like real heavy metal, which
yeah, you like heavier than even me.
which my wife,
Yeah.
she finds offensive, I think. But
Not offensive, but ugh.
but I also find myself listening to top 40, and so I'm pretty flexible. But I don't think I would have, I think I would have, if I would have heard their songs, I would have liked the music because I think they make good music.
Right.
But I don't think it would have been like, wow, who's that? I got to go find out who that is. It
Right.
just would have been just like, oh, okay, that's a cute, I like that song. And then, that kind of thing.
So when you would find, okay, so and my goal obviously was to win you over eventually. It was my secret goal. Probably wasn't very secret.
I'm really not as dumb as you think I
I
am.
know. Okay. So when you would give in and spend time with me to watch something that I asked you to watch, okay, were you even a little bit curious, or was it just, I'm going to pacify this woman and maybe she'll leave me alone? Or did it,
I don't know. That's an interesting question. I would say in the beginning, I was probably pacifying my wife.
which you should always do.
And then I think ultimately it kind of grew on me.
Yeah. The smooth like Bubba phase came into effect.
Yeah, I mean, it grows on you. I mean, like the music grows on you. Like if you listen to it, all of a sudden you're humming it and you're singing it, and that means it's good music.
Yeah, you're right. It's a good sign. Pretty soon you're dancing in the car because you can't move the bottom half of your body. Okay, like me. Is there a member that inspires you most?
Inspires me most. Wow.
You can tell I didn't give him these questions ahead of time.
I'm gonna say RM.
Really? We've never really even talked about RM. Okay, what is it about RM? I'm shocked by this.
I knew you would be. I think really, just because he's been the dad.
Okay. You're getting emotional.
I am getting
that.
emotional because I'm a dad.
Right.
Yeah.
He's led them well.
Yeah.
I can't believe that made you. Well, first of all, I'm shocked by RM. Secondly, I'm shocked by.
Yeah, we need to edit that out. I don't know if I want to do that. Anyway.
Sugar cries. It's okay. Yeah, what is it about it?
Well, I mean, just.
A lot of responsibility. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, at a really young age.
How old is he now? 20.
I want to say like almost 30 because Yoongi just turned 30. So maybe 29,
Right. So,
28, 29. His birthday's next month.
so basically he was like 20, 21 when he took over the role.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that he's probably the least celebrated.
You pay more attention than I think.
Yeah, least celebrated, but
Wow.
probably the hardest worker.
Yeah.
I mean, just corralling
Yeah. Corralling them, especially when they were younger.
when they were younger, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I just can't even. And he's got to learn how to dance and sing and rap and
Produce
write
and
right,
and,
you
yeah.
know. So
Yeah.
I don't think anybody understands the amount of work that went into all that.
No.
So
Huh.
yeah,
That one shocked me. Well done. That's amazing. I didn't know that. Okay. Would you? Okay. If you were to see them, do you recognize each one now?
I would say yes.
Yeah, I think you do too. Well, it's funny because you even recognize them. Like you'll even like we'll be watching a show or like a reaction show or something, and I'll catch you and you'll be like, well, yeah, because that's what he does. Like you even kind of have their personalities figured out.
Yeah, sometimes it depends on how they're made up and dressed up. Sometimes I get a little confused between I think it's between like V and Jimin sometimes.
Colored hair.
Colored hair or like super like andro, to
Right.
where, there's lots of makeup and stuff like that. And sometimes I get them mixed up a little bit, but
Yeah.
but if they're in their normal,
But if you were to hear them, you would immediately know.
their voices, I think I would know their voices.
Yeah. Jimin especially. Do you relate to Suga's journey?
Wow. Some deep ass questions.
I know. Army are very smart.
Well,
Indeed. Just like RM.
yeah, that's kind of a bomb to drop on you though,
Yeah.
to answer on the spot. Do I relate to his journey?
I would say as his wife, yes.
I mean, I guess like to the struggle,
Yeah.
the early struggle, and then kind of figuring things out later. But lucky for him, he figured things out a hell of a lot sooner than I did. But yeah, I mean, I see that. I mean, I think everything's just kind of a spiritual journey, really, and I think he's kind of reached that place where he's at peace.
I think that was the most powerful thing about day 3 of D-Day in Seoul was you literally watched it happen in real time.
Right.
I felt like we were watching him like through snooze and Dear My Friend and amygdala or amygdala, however he says it. Like literally, I felt like I was watching a person fight their demons for one last time, and then when he finally walked through that door, he was like a free man.
Right.
Like I'll be curious to see what he writes about now that he's, doesn't have all the anger.
Right. Right. I think that's a big part of it. I mean, I don't know. I just think that, that's how I relate. I just think that obviously he struggled early in life. I mean, he's way more talented than I'll ever be at anything. But,
Well, I think as a wife, obviously we've been married almost 30 years. I would say yes. The disapproving parent, father figure is similar.
Right. Yeah.
The trying to make it without that support system, those type of things definitely, and overcoming that, I think he's at a really good place. I mean, that's part of why I love Suga so much, because you get to watch him literally change as a human being and as a person, and not only change as a person, but to the point that he wants to turn around and make it a completely different process for everybody that comes behind him.
Right.
Like he doesn't want anybody else to experience the same pain. And that is a really powerful thing.
Right. Well, that goes back to what we were talking about earlier. That's why they inspire people, you know, because they actually care about other people. Mm-hmm. And that's a rare thing in today's world. I mean, it's hard to find, mm-hmm. you know, so that's the draw.
Mm-hmm. Somebody wanted to know, do you feel less manly for liking them? Which I think goes back to that sexist thing that maybe we talked about a little bit.
That's another hard question, because I think the answer today is different than it would have been like 5 years ago, probably, to be honest. But I do not now. I think there's a time in my life where I would have, you know, that whole macho pride, manly, you know, sort of that societal, you know, version of being a man, I guess. But mm-hmm. I think as you get older too, you just learn that's not really the truth, and
right,
you know, the truth is more about character and stuff like that. So yeah, doesn't bother me a bit.
Okay, good. You're secure in your masculinity
at this point, thank God. Yeah.
Have you seen any positive change in me since I started, since I became a fan?
Yeah, I mean, I think your mood's lighter.
I would agree.
Most of the time. You seem to be dealing with some of your struggles at work and stuff, you know, fairly easily, mm-hmm. which maybe you wouldn't have before as much, but they seem to give you a little bit of energy, maybe, mm-hmm. a little bit of
positivity.
Yeah, I mean, I do think like it's what you talked about before, because that is a big part of it. Like once you kind of learn who they are and how they treat each other, and you know where they came from, and you start seeing how they, you know, like their brotherhood and stuff, like how they treat each other and stuff like that's. I think that's what every human wants.
Right. Yes.
And it's hard to come by.
Well, it's impossible.
I mean, it's really hard. Well, I mean, it's not impossible.
Well, it's not impossible, but you know, I had a gym coach one year after I had a fight with some girls in school, and he was actually like a coach, I think, and you know, whatever. But he did have one piece of good advice. He said, "You through your entire life, you're only going to have one handful of true friends, and one of them you will marry."
Right.
That's about it. And so I think what they have, I think part of what makes them so special is the bond that they have. And I think that's partly why we are all, as an army, so distraught that they're having to be forced apart. Because to us, it's so rare to see that kind of connection and that sort of love for each other in such a healthy way that you hate to see it even have to take a break. Right. You know?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you watch it, it challenges you to be a better person.
Yeah.
If you care about that.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, I said on a post one time, I mean, there's that part of me that strives to be a Jimin, you know, who's always worried about other people and wanting to be there for other people. And I think he puts other people first. There's a part of you that wants to be a J-Hope and be happy and cheerful and always there for people and supporting them and being their number one cheerleader. I mean, you can look at each one of them and be like, I want to be like, take this part of them and make that part of me. Right. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think the spirituality of it's a big attraction for people. I don't think people realize that. I mean, I really think that's probably the least talked about part of it. You know, I think that there's a huge spiritual attraction for human beings, and I don't think I think everybody sees it as fandom. Even the fans don't realize that. I don't think they don't realize why they're so drawn. Right. And to me, it's just watching how they treat each other and stuff. That's not normal. That's not what we're used to. No. You know, out in the world. No. But that's, you know, and the thing that's cool is like they're all different religions, and you know, I think there's Buddhists and Christians and atheists and agnostics, but you know that they're setting.
They show how we should all be living. They manage to coexist. Right. And love each other and give each other space to believe what they believe and be the way they are. And
well, I mean, they are, you know, if you're of the Christian faith anyway, I mean, they are what you strive to be. You know, how you treat others, even when they do things you don't like or maybe annoy you or whatever. You know, so it's pretty inspiring.
It's very inspiring. I think marriages, I think they can get a lot out of it because I've told you, I feel like when these boys finally, they're men, sorry. When these men, I feel anybody younger than me as a boy, but when they go into long-term relationships or whatever, different than the ones they're in now, they're already such healthy communicators. Like they've already had to perfect it and figure out how do we handle arguments and disagreements and communicate when we don't want to, and all of those things. They do it so beautifully that, I mean, if you made the comment one time, I think I was probably watching In the Soup or something, because I had been bragging about their friendship and how awesome they thought they were and how kind they were, and you made the comment, well, anybody can act like that when the camera's on. And I think I was watching the travel one where they traveled. And I was like, but the camera's on 24/7. You can't just turn that, you know what I mean? And so I think that was a realization too, that this just is who they are. That somehow these 7 guys who are amazing human beings and have come, maybe they developed into that together. They're just really cool people.
Right. I mean, they're just humble. They understand. I mean, they basically show and live humility and putting others first, which, I mean, obviously, if everybody did that, the world would be perfect. I mean, but like the thing is, hardly anybody in the world does that. I mean, and I'm not saying I do all the time or whatever. I'm trying to be that, but but you know, at least I care. I want to be that, you know, which is a step in the right direction. But like when I look at them, I'm like, wow, I fall short of that. I fall short of when people annoy me or when people do things that I don't want them to do, or maybe they don't do things that I do want them to do. And I've told them a lot of times to do them, you know. I don't know, like it just challenges you to be a better person when you see other people like living like that. So